Just before we get into this video, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, the links are here. And if you also want to support me on Patreon as well and help out my channel, that would be absolutely awesome as well. But let's get on with the video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to well, I say welcome back, it's just started, but whatever, that's the intro now. So I thought I'd be a bit nostalgic with this one, and I thought I would do a video that is probably going to get a certain response from you guys as well, because what I'm talking about today is my favourite Doctor Who story, and why it's my favourite Doctor Who story. I mean, I have spoken about it briefly in other videos, but I just thought I would talk about it a bit more in this one and gauge you guys as well and see what you're saying, what are your favourite stories, what memories you have because of it, if it made you a fan, all that sort of stuff. So for those who didn't know, my favourite Doctor Who story is The Hand of Fear. For those of you who haven't seen it, in the classic era, this is when Sarah Jane leaves the TARDIS. This is her final story, well, final story where she is the current companion. Like, she's obviously appeared later on in the new series and later on in the classic era. Now, the reason why I love this one so much is because, one, it is actually a pretty good story. I think part 4 does kind of let it down somewhat. It's weird because usually with classic Who, the later parts are usually the better ones, yet with The Hand of Fear, I think the first 3 are the strongest. It has a very, very good villain. Particularly during the Philip Hinchcliffe and Bob Holmes era, I think there was a number of different villains that only appeared once, but are really memorable, are very noteworthy, and there's some really original ideas in there. Some not so original, some are based off of other horror franchises. But Eldrad as a villain, I think, is brilliant. And also because this was the first ever classic series story that I saw. Like, around this time I was kind of like peak Doctor Who fan, when I was a kid at least anyway. And this story came out on DVD to coincide with the fact that Elizabeth Sladen was returning as Sarah Jane in the new series in School Reunion. And so one day after school I was in Tesco and I saw this DVD and I said to my mum, can I get it? And she picked it up. And at that point it was kind of weird because I was well aware of classic Who. I'd sort of looked up pictures and old clips and whatnot on the internet, and I've got to be honest, I didn't really have that much of an interest in going back because I did really like the new series and I didn't want to go back to an era where special effects were shit, they were longer, they were a lot slower, they were potentially more boring, and obviously that is absolute horseshit because the classic era is probably the better era of Doctor Who. The writing is great, the acting is not so great, but the characters are really believable, they're really relatable, there's not all this other outworld stuff that's sort of affecting the plots in the episode. It was more just great science fiction stories with aspects of horror, with aspects of comedy, drama, and it found a really good balance of that. And I think The Hand of Fear is one of those stories that really epitomizes that. It's a story that doesn't really stand out. I mean, if it wasn't for Sarah Jane leaving, I think this would just be probably a forgotten gem in the Tom Baker era. It arguably already is, but because this era of the show in particular was so good and it was so consistent, like, I think from probably the start of Tom right up until his 3rd season, there aren't too many episodes that really jump out as really bad. Even the less good episodes, the more okay ones, they're still really good. So I love the fact that I just took a punt on it and I was like, you know what, I really like Sarah Jane, so let's watch this. I want to see more of her. It's really weird as well because after watching School Reunion, to have that context of where she ended up, to see her while she's still traveling with the Doctor and how they part ways, which is kind of anticlimactic in a way if you think about it, considering Sarah Jane's status as a companion. Like, before she even came back, she was regarded as one of the best companions. And just to see her chemistry with Tom Baker and the way that they bounced off of each other, it's very, very evident in this story. You can tell that both of them off screen really got on with each other. It doesn't look like you're watching 2 actors read off of a script. It looks like 2 friends who have gone on adventures together. There's so many little moments throughout The Hand of Fear that are just joyful to watch. Like, there's the bit where the Doctor says, stay here, I'm going in. And as he's walking to the nuclear power complex, Sarah just runs after him. And the nice little bits of dialogue and everything throughout that scene and throughout different parts of the story as well, it just brings the characters to life and you really engage and connect with these people. Tom as well is in brilliant form. Like, for the first story that I watched of the 4th Doctor, I instantly got every single thing about the 4th Doctor. Every aspect of Tom Baker's Doctor, or at least the aspects that people tend to talk about the most, you'll find it in this story. And that's not me saying that you won't find it in the majority of Tom's stories, but if you take an example such as Pyramids of Mars, wonderful story, absolutely brilliant story. However, I would not say that that is peak 4th Doctor. There's obviously behind the scenes reasons for this, so he didn't really put his all into the the performance. Season 18 as well, Tom is very somber, and if you heard all these things about the Fourth Doctor and then you watch a story like The Leisure Hive, for example, you'd wonder what the hell people were on about and why they like the Fourth Doctor so much. And I suppose as well, seeing Tom recently at Comic-Con, it just brought all these memories back to me of me looking at the title sequence for the first time, wondering what it was going to be like. What was the TARDIS console going to be like? How was Classic Who going to be different or maybe better than the new series? How would this new Doctor to me compare with the two Doctors that I'd already previously seen with Eccleston and Tennant? Given how this show was made in a totally different era to me, would I still connect with it? And I do. I really, really do. And I'm not going to sit here and say that The Hand of Fear is just the best piece of Doctor Who that we have ever had. I've said before in videos that it's my favourite, and you guys are probably aware of that. And I've had people say to me before, well, hang on, you said that Hand of Fear was your favourite story, but it's not on your top 10 best list for the classic era. And no, it's not, because objectively speaking, The Hand of Fear is not the best story ever made. Like, objectively, there are probably stories in most of the Doctor's eras that are way better than The Hand of Fear. There are way better stories than The Hand of Fear, objectively, in the very same season that this story is in. But I suppose it's that nostalgia factor, you know? It reminds me of being a little kid and diving into it all again. It's just one of those stories where I will forever treasure it, and all the memories that I have surrounding it. Like, I remember watching it for the very first time. I remember, I mean, we don't have it now, but I remember the TV that we watched it on. I remember the DVD player that we had it in. I remember how different the living room looked when I was watching it. Like, it was years ago, and I still remember all those little details. I often say that The Empty Child is probably the story where I knew I would be a Doctor Who fan, because I found it terrifying, yet I had to keep watching as it was so good. The Hand of Fear is probably the story that solidified me as a fucking nutter Whovian. Like, I mean, you've seen my videos. I've got a fucking cardboard cutout of Tom in my room. I've got all sorts of crap. And it's because of this. It's because of my love, you know, for this one story. If I hadn't have watched Hand of Fear, I don't know if I would have watched any of the classic era. Or maybe if I did, what if I watched a story that is known to be not that good? I didn't really enjoy it, and because of that, I don't go back and watch anymore. Like, there's so many different things that could have happened. That's why I'm always thankful to this story. But in the comments, guys, let me know what you think. Not just of The Hand of Fear, but what is your favourite Doctor Who story? Why is it your favourite Doctor Who story? What memories do you have around it? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it. Subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links are in the description as usual, so if you would follow me on any of those things, then I would absolutely love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.